Hi everyone, year 12 lesson today, second lesson on beliefs in society, building on the work that you did on Monday, looking at the six main world religions. So hopefully you've got some key ideas about what those religions have in common, what they might offer to people, and why they've become so important or how they've become so important. What we're going to do for the first bit of the topic, I'm breaking with my little sort of tradition, and we're not doing theory to start with. We'll do that when we're all back together after your PPEs, but a couple of nice lessons, not too much for you guys to do so that you can really focus on your revision, but we do keep religion moving on. We're going to look at religious organizations, so different types of religious organizations, the examples of them, and how it all works. So various sociologists have attempted to categorize different religious organizations, to put them into groups, to kind of look at the themes, what do they have in common, what are the differences, and lots of different sociologists have done this in lots of different ways. So they've looked at things like the structure of the organization. Is it hierarchical? Is it a fairly flat structure? Is there lots of equality? Is there a big emphasis on power and domination? So some sociologists have looked at that. Some have looked at the relationship that the organization has with the state, with the country, with the government that it's sort of within, and different views have come out of that. How they relate to wider society. Are they inclusive? Are they exclusive? Do they reject wider society? Do they want to all go and live on a desert island on their own together? The size. Are they small? Are they, a tiny group of people living in one place like the Westboro Baptist Church, or are they huge with over 1 billion people like the Catholic Church? Membership. Where do those members come from? Geographically, demographically, do you have more women, more men, more old people, more young people? And what commitment do they require from their members? Do you need to live with this organisation? Do you just dip in and out as and when you feel like it? So there are lots of things that sociologists have looked at in terms of putting religious organisations into groups. Wallace was one of them who started off kind of getting people thinking about this, and he came up with three main categories. So he talked about world rejecting, world accommodating, and world affirming groups. So a world rejecting group would be something like a commune where they reject the outside world. They all live differently from the rest of society. They all go and live together usually, and they reject the goals and the means that outside society use to sort of get through everyday life. A world accommodating group is one that accepts mainstream norms and values, and the members largely share the same lifestyle as wider society. So they sort of exist in the world and they carry on within the world, and they have the same norms and values and goals as wider society. And then a world affirming group accepts wider society and the things that society has to offer, but they offer individuals the ability to self-improve. So they may be seen as slightly bizarre, but they're generally the ones, things like mindfulness, things like looking for inner peace and happiness within the world around us. This is a really important point to note, and I'm hoping that the work you did on Monday will really emphasize this and show this. These typologies that we're going to go to look at, so there are four main categories or typologies that we're going to use, are not ideal groups. They're not ideal types. No religious group fits exactly into one of the categories. And that's kind of the point. That's where your AO3, your evaluation, will come from, is knowing that different groups maybe fall into a little bit of one category, but also a bit of another. Also really interesting to know, and particularly based on the work that you did on Monday, is that no religion, sorry, most of the work completed by sociologists is based on Western society. So there is an overemphasis on Christianity, Christian denominations, Christian groups. Therefore, when we come to look at things like Hinduism or Buddhism, they don't necessarily fit the categories that other religions might do. So it's worth just having a think about that and making a note for your AO3 for your evaluation. So over the next couple of weeks, and as I said, I'm keeping these lessons really short and sweet. You're going to love it. We're going to look at the 4 main types of religious organisation for sociologists. So that's church, denomination, sect, and cult. Cult, not necessarily how you might understand it from the media. The media has a very different way of using the word cult. It often has lots of negative connotations, but actually there are within sociology we tend to look at it a little bit more positively, and it might be sect that you associate with a bit more negativity. So today all I want to do is have a look at the church as a religious organisation. So church, a summary of what a church is. Now, we're not talking here about a building, we're talking about an organisation. So, a church as an organisation, a religious organisation that has certain characteristics. And it's a guy called Troeltsch who talked about this first way back in 1912. So, when I say there was a Christian focus, you've got to think this is Western European sociology, and therefore the focus really is on Christianity. Churches, as organisations, attempt to be universal. So they attempt to speak for everybody. They attempt to be inclusive. They attempt to have this overreaching and far-reaching emphasis. To all intents and purposes, a church is one of the mainstream religions. So we might look at the Roman Catholic Church or the Church of England, or even certain branches of Judaism or Islam as a church in an organizational sense. So a church is one of those big, far-reaching, universal, applying to everybody organizations. They usually have very strong links to the state. So they are usually joined by the government. Think about the Church of England. The Queen is head of the Church of England. You can't get a stronger link than that. Roman Catholic Church, once Christianity was adopted as the religion of the Roman Empire, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, has always resided in Rome. So there is a huge, strong link to the state. And if you think all the way back to, sort of Henry VIII times and how much power the Pope had over governments and states in the UK, in Europe, then it kind of tells you what that means. They are ideologically conservative. Now that's with a little c, nothing to do with Bojo and his pals. They tend to like the status quo. They tend to be quite right-wing in a sense. They tend to be not wanting too much change. Think about issues like abortion, votes for women, rights for women. They tend to be conservative. They don't want to be progressive. They don't want to be forward thinking. And they claim a monopoly on truth. So they have this internal sense of power and this belief that they are in charge, that they have some God-given right and claim on the truth, and nobody else has the power to question that, and all other types of power are invalid. So your main task today, really simple, and you're not doing this whole table today by any stretch of the imagination. I will put some extra reading on Show My Homework and point you in the right direction with some websites and things. But what I'd like you to do, if you can get the largest piece of paper you've got, A3, or sellotape together a couple of A4 pages, print stick out, whatever, can you draw out that big table as big as you can, or do it on the computer and keep it neat and tidy? And can you fill in the column for churches as an organisation? So, some examples, I've already given you those. The Roman Catholic Church, Church of England, you could use other religions as well. Organisational structure, what are they like in terms of their structure and their hierarchy? Attitude to wider society, if you want to use Wallace and his 3 categories, that would be great. Membership, Who joins them? Who goes regularly? What do they expect of their members? Is also an interesting idea. And then finally at the bottom, attitude to other beliefs and religions. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to fill in all 4 columns. Today, all you need to do is the bit on churches, and I will point you in the direction of some useful reading, and we will build from there. I promise not too much writing. You've got plenty of time for revision.